Hello hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Whatever Happened To, the series where we take a where are they now look at players who found success in the National Hockey League but are no longer permanent fixtures in the league, either due to controversy, poor play, or just rotten luck. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at a 15-year veteran of the league, an 8-time 20-goal scorer, and a 6-time 50-point scorer, as we ask, whatever happened to Tomas Plekanec? Before we begin, this video is sponsored by MANSCAPED. MANSCAPED are the global leaders in men's below-the-belt grooming, trusted by over 2 million customers worldwide, thanks to their precision-engineered tools that help you take care of what's down there. Now, you've heard me talk about Manscaped's wide variety of high-quality products over the last few months. Whether it's their iconic Lawnmower 3.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, their various liquid formulations, and even their signature scent cologne, you've seen it all, folks. However, this month I really wanted to highlight the great work that Manscaped have been doing for those who need it most, and how your purchases have helped them to do so. In addition to providing the right tools for the job, Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society in order to spread awareness for men's health and encourage early cancer detection. Together, Manscaped and TCS are committed to providing support for fighters, survivors, and families of those who have been impacted by testicular cancer. And by purchasing Manscaped's products, you are directly helping them to combat the most common form of cancer found in men aged 15 to 35. While we're on the subject, why not give yourself a little look down there once this video is over, and make sure everything is how it should be. It can't hurt to double check, right guys? So if you want to try Manscaped's wide range of high quality products for yourself, play your part in the battle against testicular cancer, and bag yourself a pretty sweet discount, head on over to manscaped.com and use promo code OddManRush20 for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com and promo code OddManRush20 for 20% off your order plus free shipping. Manscaped, refining the gentleman. But anyway, back to the video. The 71st overall pick of the 2001 NHL draft by the Montreal Canadiens, Tomas Plekanec would spend the following 01-02 season back home in the Czech Extraliga before making the move to North America and officially joining the Canadiens organisation for the 02-03 season. From there, the third-round draft pick would spend the next 3 years with Montreal's minor league affiliate, the Hamilton Bulldogs, where he quickly developed into one of Montreal's premier prospects thanks to scoring 176 points in 231 AHL games. Not only would this performance earn him consecutive appearances at the AHL All-Star Game, Plekanec would also suit up in his NHL debut midway through the 03-04 season, but he ended up playing just a pair of games and went scoreless in that span. Having potted 29 goals and 64 points in 80 AHL games during the 04-05 lockout season, and having registered more than 60 points in each of his last 2 years in the minors, Plekanec had not only earned himself a longer look at the NHL level, he had secured himself another contract with Montreal, as he signed a 2-year, $900,000 deal on August 16, 2005. Though he would make little more than league minimum for the foreseeable future, the forward's performance over the coming years would see this deal become one hell of a bargain. The 05-06 season would see Plekanec finally break into the NHL, as his strong performance during training camp secured him a place on Montreal's roster. Having earned a shot to prove that he belonged in the bigs, the former third-round pick would go on to spend the entirety of his new contract with the team, where he wasted little time putting his high-scoring skills on display. With 29 points in 67 games during his rookie year, and with 47 points in 81 games during the following 06-07 season, the 24-year-old had developed into quite the productive scorer, and was certainly holding his own against the best players in the world. Not only that, Plekanec would also get his first taste of the Stanley Cup playoffs too, as the rookie scored 4 points in 6 games during the 2006 postseason, but Montreal were eliminated in the first round by the Carolina Hurricanes. Once his 2-year contract had expired, and having finished his sophomore season as the 5th highest scorer on the team, it was clear that Plekanec was due a pretty sizable raise. This culminated in the forward signing another 2-year contract with Montreal, this time worth $1.6 million a season, on July 5th, 2007. So thanks to him rising to the occasion and developing into a legitimate top 6 player for his team, Plekanec had just signed the first multi-million-dollar deal of his career. Though he was still earning a modest salary compared to many of his contemporaries, Plekanec would ensure that this deal was money well spent. The next 2 years of Plekanec's career would end up being vastly different from one season to the next. Though he would set his career high in goals during the 07-08 season, thanks to scoring an impressive 29 goals and 69 points in 81 regular season games, the following 08-09 NHL season saw the forward take a sizable step backwards in nearly every facet of his game. Though he would still produce his third consecutive 20-goal season, Plekanec ended up finishing the year with just 39 points in 80 games. Not only that, he also racked up more penalty minutes than any previous year with 54, while his plus-minus dropped a whopping 24 points, from a +15 down to a -9. That said, Plekanec was able to help Montreal make it to the playoffs in both of those years, where he scored 9 points in 15 total games, but the Habs were unable to make it past the second round. Once his second 2-year contract had expired, and having faced several setbacks during the latter half of the deal, both Plekanec and Montreal were keen to keep their partnership going, but on a shorter deal than before. This culminated in the Habs signing Plekanec to a 1-year contract worth $2.75 million on July 21st, 2009. So having just been handed a prove-it deal, Plekanec knew that his performance over the next season would determine whether he would remain in Quebec for the foreseeable future, or whether he would have to look for employment elsewhere in the league. Thanks to his play over the coming year, the forward would soon prove all of his doubters wrong. The 09-10 NHL season would see Plekanec return to Montreal's roster once again, and quickly rebound from his previous down year in a pretty big way. Not only would he record another 20-goal season, the former third-round pick would also set his career highs for both assists and points, thanks to potting an incredible 25 goals and 70 points in 82 regular season games. This bounce-back performance would also help Montreal make their third straight trip to the postseason too, where Plekanec rose to the occasion by potting 11 points in 19 games, as Montreal made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals before they were eventually eliminated by the Philadelphia Flyers. With his 1-year contract coming to an end, and with him recently returning to his strong play of years past, the 27-year-old forward was ready to cash in on his breakout season. Given his recent resurgence, Montreal were all too happy to reward him for his efforts, as Plekanec signed a 6-year, $30 million contract worth an average annual value of $5 million a season on June 22, 2010. So thanks to his career-high performance, Tomas Plekanec had just put pen to paper on the biggest and most expensive contract of his entire NHL career. Though he would never reach the same lofty heights in the years that followed, this deal would still work out very well for both the player and the organisation. The following 2 years of Plekanec's career would see the forward continue to suit up with the Habs and produce strong scoring numbers for the team. With 57 points in 77 games during the 10-11 season, and with 52 points in 81 games during the 11-12 season, Plekanec hadn't quite replicated his career-high performance, but he had still registered his 4th consecutive 20-goal season, en route to potting 109 points in 158 NHL games during that span. These numbers would also help Montreal make their 4th straight trip to the playoffs in 2011, where Plekanec potted 5 points in 7 games, but the Habs were knocked out in the first round by the Boston Bruins. So roughly a third of the way into his career contract, Plekanec's numbers may have dropped somewhat, but he was still one of, if not the most productive player on the entire Canadiens roster. With the halfway point of his deal fast approaching, and with Montreal finishing the most recent season of play as one of the worst teams in the entire league, Plekanec knew that he would have to kick his production up a notch and become a go-to guy for his team if he wanted to compete for a championship anytime soon. But first, there was a lockout! During the 12-13 lockout, Plekanec would take his talents back across the pond as he spent the opening months of the year with Czech Extraliga side Ratiri Kladno. Having returned to his hometown team for the first time in over a decade, the 30-year-old forward would score a whopping 46 points in 32 games with his childhood side before the lockout finally came to an end and Plekanec returned to Montreal. Once he had rejoined the Habs roster, the Czech forward would spend the rest of that year, as well as the following 13-14 season with the Canadiens. And though he continued to be one of Montreal's top scorers, he produced a vastly different performance from one year to the next. After scoring 33 points in 47 games during the lockout-shortened season, Plekanec would see his numbers take a hit as he potted 43 points in 81 games during the following year. That said, this production would still help Montreal make a pair of trips to the playoffs, where Plekanec scored 13 points in 22 total games, but the Habs made it as far as the 2014 Eastern Conference Finals before they were knocked out once again, this time by the New York Rangers. So despite putting up great numbers on both sides of the pond during the lockout year, Plekanec had followed that up with his least productive season in half a decade. With his 32nd birthday on the horizon, and with his 6-year contract entering its latter stages, Plekanec knew that he needed to rebound quickly if he wanted to remain in Quebec after his deal had come to an end. Would he achieve this goal? Oh boy, would he! The final 2 seasons of Plekanec's contract would see the forward out to prove that his best years weren't behind him just yet. Luckily for both the player and the organisation, Plekanec would do exactly that. Thanks to a 26-goal, 60-point year during the 14-15 season, and a slightly less productive, but similarly impressive 14-goal, 54-point year during the following 15-16 season, the former third-round pick was back to being his old self again as he entered his mid-30s. In the midst of this resurgence, Plekanec would extend his tenure with Montreal even further by putting pen to paper on a new deal, as he signed a 2-year, $12 million contract extension worth an average annual value of $6 million a season on October 16, 2015, keeping him with the organisation until the conclusion of the 17-18 season. If all of that wasn't impressive enough though, Plekanec would also help Montreal make their 3rd straight trip to the postseason in 2015, but after scoring 4 points in 12 games, the Canadiens were eliminated in the 2nd round by the Tampa Bay Lightning. So thanks to his bounce-back performance during the final 2 years of his mega contract, Plekanec had ensured that he would remain with the team that had drafted him well over a decade ago, and would continue to suit up in the Bleu, Blanc et Rouge during the twilight years of his career. However, he would no longer be playing in Montreal by the time his extension was up. Over the course of his new deal, the freshly signed Plekanec would return to the Habs lineup once again and look to keep his play consistent with his prior few years on the team. Unfortunately though, the veteran forward began to show his age far quicker than anyone was hoping for, as he scored just 28 points in 78 games during the 16-17 season, roughly half of what he had produced in each of the last 2 years alone. After scoring 24 points in the first 60 games of the 17-18 season, and with Montreal clearly struggling in the standings, the Habs decided that it was time to make a change. Less than 24 hours before the 2018 trade deadline, it was announced that Montreal had traded Plekanec to the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with forward Kyle Bourne, in exchange for Kirby Reichel, Rinat Valiev, and a 2018 second-round pick. Having been shipped off from the only NHL team he had ever known after parts of 14 seasons on the roster, Plekanec would spend the rest of the year with Toronto, but would struggle to make an impact for his new side, as he potted just 2 points in 17 games, bringing his full season totals to 6 goals and 26 points in 77 games. That said, he did score 4 points in 7 playoff games as the Leafs made it to the postseason, but they were knocked out in the first round by the Boston Bruins. Once his 2-year contract had expired, and having registered the lowest scoring numbers of his entire NHL career, Plekanec knew that his time in the league was near its end. Having become an unrestricted free agent for the first time, the 36-year-old was eager to reunite with his former franchise and end his tenure in the league with the team he had spent nearly his entire career with. These sentiments culminated in Plekanec signing a one-year, $3.5 million contract on July 1st, 2018 with the Montreal Canadiens. So after a few months in Toronto and another early exit from the playoffs, Plekanec was returning to Quebec and spending the rest of his NHL career with the only team he should. However, this reunion wouldn't last very long. The 18-19 NHL season would see Plekanec don the bleu, blanc et rouge once again as he rejoined Montreal for another year with the team. Unfortunately though, to say that his return was brief would be the understatement of the year. After suiting up in his 1000th NHL game on October 15th, 2018, and after scoring a single goal in his first 3 games of the year, on November 9th, 2018, it was announced that Montreal had placed Plekanec on unconditional waivers and would be terminating his contract with the team. Though many Habs fans were quite understandably confused by this, since the news had seemingly come out of nowhere, it was later revealed that the termination had been a mutual decision between the player and the organisation, since Plekanec officially announced his retirement from the NHL later that same day. This meant that after parts of 15 seasons in the NHL, Tomas Plekanec had left the league behind, having scored a whopping 233 goals and 608 points in 1,001 regular season games, as well as 53 points in 94 playoff games too. Once the paperwork was filed and the termination was officially complete on November 11th, Plekanec quickly returned to the Czech Republic and looked to continue his playing career much closer to home. After several weeks had passed, and with little to no information on where he would be signing, the forward finally announced his plans for the rest of the year. On November 26, 2018, it was revealed that Plekanec would spend the rest of the 18-19 season playing for 2 different teams, as he would split his time between Extraliga side HC Kometa Brno and Czech League 2 side Rytíři Kladno, his hometown team. Now, the idea of a player suiting up for 2 different teams in 2 different leagues simultaneously sounds pretty outlandish and seemingly impossible, but when he was asked about this decision, Plekanec mentioned how he wanted to play enough games for the rest of the season, and suiting up for one of these teams alone wouldn't allow him to do so, since Czech teams typically play 8 to 10 hockey games in a month. Also, Plekanec wanted to compete for an Extraliga championship with Brno, who had won 2 straight at the time, alongside helping his childhood team return to the top flight of competition, since Czech hockey uses the promotion and relegation system. Not the most conventional choice out there, but considering Plekanec had the chance to both have his cake and eat it too, I can certainly understand why he made this decision. After all, there's no rule against it, folks. Once he had joined his new teams back home, Plekanec would spend the rest of the season split between Brno and Kladno, where he produced decent results for the 2 sides. With 12 points in 10 games for Kladno, and with 7 points in 16 games for Brno, the Czech forward had clearly dominated the second tier, but he had struggled to make the impact he was looking for while he was in the top flight. Though he would be unable to help Brno clinch their 3rd consecutive championship, as they were eventually knocked out in the semi-final round of the playoffs, Plekanec's 15 points in 10 games during the League 2 playoffs would help Kladno secure their place in the Extraliga for the following season. At least he got one of his wishes that year. Despite helping his childhood side return to the top flight, Plekanec decided that he would commit to his other team that year moving forwards, as he re-signed solely with Kometa Brno for the upcoming 2019-20 season. In fact, the 37-year-old forward would end up spending the entire season with Brno, where he served as an alternate captain for the team and produced improved scoring numbers compared to the year prior, as he potted 13 goals and 33 points in 50 regular season games. Though he would finish 4th on the team in scoring and help Kometa clinch a berth in the playoffs, the Extraliga season was suspended on March 12, 2020 due to the current global pandemic. Once his second year with Brno had reached its unceremonious end, and with him unable to get his hands on the Extraliga championship yet again, Plekanec decided that it was time to return home. Thanks to the global situation and his desire to be closer to his family, on September 8, 2020, Plekanec signed a 2-year contract with Ratiri Kladno. So even though he would be returning to the Czech League 2, since Kladno had been relegated from the top flight, Plekanec would spend the final few years of his career back where it all began. To this day, Tomas Plekanec is still a member of Ratiri Kladno's roster. Wearing the C on his jersey as the new captain of the team, the 38-year-old showed no signs of slowing down during the recent 2021 season, as he finished second on the roster in scoring with 34 points in 33 games. Not only that, Plekanec's 17 points in 13 playoff games has helped Kladno reach the League 2 playoff finals, which they are currently tied 2-2 against the second seed Jilava. With his contract set to expire at the end of next season, and with Kladno just 2 wins away from securing promotion back to the top flight, it's possible that Plekanec returns to the Extraliga for the upcoming 21-22 season and gets another chance to compete for that all-important playoff championship. Whether this scenario works out or not though, there's no denying that Tomas Plekanec has had one hell of a career. I mean, the guy has played over 1,000 NHL games, spent 21 seasons as a pro hockey player, and has earned over $47 million during that span. Not bad for a 3rd-round pick, eh, folks? And there you go. That's what happened to Tomas Plekanec. What do you guys think about Plekanec's NHL career? Was it good, bad, or do you think that he could have stuck around for a little while longer? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Carl Fairbank, Connor B, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Jordan Whitehead, Saturn Otaku, Tom from Finland, Twin Sanity Dad and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.